The headline hitting our desks is, well, it's stark and extremely violent. Ukraine annihilates Russian river assault, Siverskyi Donets. This happened just hours ago, December 22, 2025. And it's a terrifying echo of a colossal Russian failure from the very start of this war. And before we get into it, if you appreciate this kind of analysis, make sure you hit that button and alliados. Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me at REI in this latest deep dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover, well, the baffling and persistent attempts by Russian forces to cross one of the most strategically and psychologically significant choke points of the war, the Siverskyi Donets River. Specifically, we're looking at the area near the villages of Serebryonka and Dronivka.
And this is so much more than just another frontline skirmish, This deep dive is absolutely critical because the failures we're seeing right now, they're like a microcosm of Russia's entire strategic campaign. So our mission today is to really unpack why the Siverskyi Donets river crossing is this recurring catastrophic failure for Moscow.
Okay.
We're going to analyze the true staggering cost of Russia's recent offensives. We're talking about metrics that define the whole campaign as a strategic failure, no matter what the Kremlin is trying to sell.
And we have to connect that to the diplomatic side of things. We're going to review the political battleground where Russia is just explicitly rejecting the core parts of proposed peace plans.
A move that makes any future agreement, well, instantly fragile.
And this is happening at the exact moment Europe is doubling down on concrete, long-term financial support for Kyiv.
Exactly. And just to give you a preview of what's coming, we're going to uncover the catastrophic tactical errors that cost Russia an entire battalion tactical group, a whole BTG, back in 2022 at this exact spot.
And why they seem to have learned absolutely nothing repeating the attempt today. It's just stunning.
Then there's the human cost. The numbers are just staggering.
They really are. We've got figures that show Russian forces suffered between 41 and 48% of all their casualties since 2022, in 2024 alone.
And they paid roughly 104 casualties for every single square kilometer they gained. Think about that cost.
It's unsustainable. And finally, we'll get into the chilling strategic moves from Putin rejecting reliable security guarantees for Ukraine.
Which is a move that basically makes any peace deal completely toothless and just sets the stage for renewed aggression down the line.
Okay, let's jump right in. Let's unpack this persistent, deadly ghost of the Siverskyi Donets River, because that's where this whole story of failure begins.
It really is. The Siverskyi Donets is, I'd argue, the site of Russia's most notorious tactical defeat in the early months of the full-scale invasion.
Right. We're talking about the original battle of the Siverskyi Donets. That was between, May 5th and 13th, 2022.
That's the one. Near Bilohorivka, Dronivka, and Serebryanka. And it was a definitive, immediate Ukrainian victory. It was an attempted crossing by Russia's 74th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade.
And the scale of that failure is just hard to comprehend. We're talking about a BTG, a battalion tactical group.
An entire BTG. And you have to understand the weight of that. It's roughly 600 to 1,000 highly trained soldiers, with 10-plus tanks, 30 infantry fighting vehicles, artillery.
So to lose a whole unit like that in one spot.
It's a strategic catastrophe. Analysts at the time were stunned by the lack of tactical planning.
Stunned is putting it mildly. The estimates on losses were devastating, between 485 and maybe 1,500 soldiers killed, and 80 to 100 vehicles just destroyed. It's like a textbook on how not to do a river crossing under fire.
And ironically, the location they chose is what doomed them. They picked this classic textbook spot, a bend in the river, gentle slopes. It's right out of Soviet doctrine.
Which made it completely predictable.
Exactly. The Ukrainians knew exactly where to expect them. But the real error, the one that kind of defines Russia's struggles in this war, was the total failure in combined arms coordination.
Meaning all the different parts weren't working together?
Not at all. The engineers building the pontoon bridge, they weren't protected by infantry or shielded by air defense or supported by artillery to suppress the Ukrainian side. It was a total mess.
There's a fascinating account from a Ukrainian engineer, a guy named Maxim.
Right. He detailed how their recon confirmed the site. It was a huge effort. 8 separate parts for the pontoon bridge, 2 full hours of work.
This is where the Ukrainian brilliance really comes in. They showed what analysts call tactical patience.
They didn't just hit them right away.
No, that might have just scared them off. Instead, they waited about 20 minutes for the Russian vehicles to fully mass on their side of the river. They literally let the trap close around them.
And only then did they unleash everything. Massed artillery from the 17th Tank Brigade, the 80th Separate Air Assault Brigade, plus airstrikes.
And Russia had no answer. No counter-battery fire, and crucially, no air defense to protect that incredibly vulnerable pontoon bridge.
They exposed their most valuable asset and all the troops crossing it to completely uncontested Ukrainian fire. It was a slaughter.
What's so chilling is that this exact mistake from 2022 is happening again today, December 22, 2025.
Yeah.
It shows this astonishing lack of institutional learning.
We're seeing reports right now that Russian forces are again trying to ferry people across the Siverskyi Donets near the Serebryanka forestry.
And the objective is the same, isn't it?
Pretty much. They want full control of Serebryanka and Donetsk. If they get them, they become staging grounds to push towards the strategic heights near Zakhytne and Platonivka, which are northeast of Siversk.
The fighting is being described as extremely difficult, but Ukraine's 81st Airmobile Brigade is holding the line. We even have confirmation they just destroyed 2 Russian boats trying to make that crossing along with their personnel.
So it's the same river, the same kind of desperation, and Ukraine is handing them the same high-cost defeat.
And that's the thing. This Siverskyi Donets crossing, it's not just some isolated incident. It feels like a small-scale version of Russia's entire campaign.
It is. It's a perfect tactical microcosm. And this pattern of costly failure leads us right to the horrifying numbers that define their entire 2024 and 2025 strategic failure.
So let's connect those dots. When you look at the big picture, the data from places like the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, it paints a really grim picture for Russia's 2024 offensive.
It does. Their big goal, seize all of Donbas, get a rapid breakthrough, force a surrender. They failed completely. The whole thing just turned into a grinding strategy of pure attrition.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to process. Ukrainian figures suggest over 434,000 Russian casualties in 2024.
Just think about that. It's between 41 and 48% of all the casualties they've suffered since February 2022. Nearly half the total human cost of the war in just that 1 year.
Wow. And for what? What was the gain?
That's the key question. The ISW data shows they advanced about 4,168 square kilometers in 2024. So when you do the math, they paid roughly 104 casualties for every single square kilometer.
That's not a sustainable way to fight a war.
It's not just high. It proves they're exhausting their military for minimal gain. They're just choosing to bleed, hoping Ukraine folds first.
And that's changed how they fight on the ground, right? They've abandoned those big mechanized encirclements we saw earlier.
They had to. Now it's all about grinding, attritional infantry assaults, often using poorly protected recruits in these small tactical envelopments to try and force Ukrainian withdrawals, like we saw in Vuhledar.
And their logistics have gotten desperate. The vehicle losses mean they're using anything that moves and can avoid drones.
Which is where you get these, frankly, unbelievable reports. We're talking motorcycles, ATVs, and there's even been footage of troops crossing fields on horseback in Kharkiv Oblast.
On horseback in 2025.
It sounds medieval, but it's about survival. Their entire focus is now on these tiny infiltration groups, 2 to 5 soldiers, because anything larger is an immediate target for Ukrainian drones.
So they've adapted to this slow, grinding positional warfare, but it means they can't make any kind of rapid breakthrough.
Exactly. They've sacrificed speed for survival. And you'd think this level of bleeding, this horrifying cost, would force Moscow to, soften its diplomatic position.
But the opposite is happening.
The complete opposite. The deadlock on the ground is perfectly mirrored by a diplomatic deadlock. Russia's maximalism is unwavering.
So in mid-December 2025, Putin is just doubling down.
Completely. He reaffirmed all his 2022 war aims, neutral status, demilitarization, all of it. Plus his June 2024 demand for a full Ukrainian withdrawal from all 4 of the illegally annexed oblasts.
Which means any real path to peace is blocked.
Totally. Foreign Minister Lavrov explicitly rejected 7 key points of the U.S. proposed peace plan, including ideas like territorial swaps based on the current front line.
But the security guarantees part is the most chilling.
By far. Lavrov explicitly rejected providing any reliable security guarantees for Ukraine. Instead, he demanded Russia get guarantees from the West.
And he threatened any peacekeepers, right?
He said any peacekeepers deployed to Ukraine would be legitimate military targets. It's a clear threat that makes any Western security promise to Ukraine totally ineffective. It's basically Russia saying, we reserve the right to attack again whenever we want.
So the diplomacy is just for show. It's part of the fight.
It's a cognitive warfare campaign. It's not about finding peace, it's about pressuring the West to give up, to demand Ukraine capitulates. They're trying to win in the minds of Western leaders before their own military machine completely fails.
And they do that by exaggerating every little game.
Exactly. Putin and his defense minister are trying to sell this narrative that the front line is about to collapse. They take the capture of a small town like Chasiv Yar and frame it as proof they can quickly take massive cities like Kramatorsk and Slovyansk.
But the reality on the ground just doesn't support that at all.
Not even close. ISW is very clear. Russian gains are tactical, slow, and constrained to a literal foot pace. I mean, just look at the facts. It took them 41 months, over 3 years, to advance just 19 kilometers from Lysychansk to Siversk.
41 months for 19 kilometers.
If that's their best pace, the big fortress belt cities are safe for a very, very long time.
And they're trying to amplify this propaganda with these new cross-border attacks, right?
Yeah.
In Sumy and Kharkiv.
Yeah, these limited, highly visible attacks. The tactics they used were weird, not their usual style there, which suggests it was purely for show, for informational effect. Trying to suggest a new front is opening up to stretch Ukrainian forces thin.
And as part of those attacks, they committed more war crimes.
Tragically, yes. Russian forces forcibly deported about 50 elderly civilians from Probovsky in Sumy Oblast. It just underscores the brutality behind all their informational games.
But while Russia is posturing and bleeding, Europe is actually doing the opposite. They're putting down concrete, unified financial support.
That's right. And this financial shield is absolutely crucial for Ukraine's long-term resilience. The EU agreed to indefinitely freeze 210 billion euros in Russian assets. That's about $247 billion.
And that freeze is what made the next step possible.
Exactly. It enabled the EU to give Ukraine a reparations loan of up to 165 billion euros, or $194 billion. And here's the critical detail you have to understand.
It's only repayable if Russia pays reparations first.
Correct. It's a massive financial shield for Kyiv. It secures vital long-term funding without draining European budgets right now. And on top of that, there's another interest-free loan of 90 billion euros coming for 2026-2027.
It's clear long-term strategic commitment.
It is. It's designed to outlast Russia's attritional grind.
At the same time, Russia is still trying to escalate things against NATO. They've deployed the Oreshnik missile system to Belarus.
Yes, and President Zelensky immediately flagged that as a direct threat to Poland, Germany, and other European countries.
And there was that border incident, too. Small but significant.
Very significant. On December 17th, 3 uniformed Russian border guards briefly crossed into Estonian territory on the Narva River. That's NATO territory.
And that's the first time we've seen that kind of thing happen as part of what analysts are calling Russia's Phase Zero.
Right, and Phase Zero is basically the informational and psychological prep work for a possible future NATO-Russia conflict.
So they're testing the waters.
They're testing responses, gauging political will, creating instability. It underscores that Russia's goals aren't just limited to Ukraine. They are a threat to all of Europe.
So to synthesize all this, what the source material is really telling us is that Russia is trapped. They're stuck in a strategy that has this exorbitant human cost.
They are. They're choosing to burn through manpower instead of equipment, keeping up this slow, attritional grind while using psychological warfare to try and force a surrender.
But Ukraine, with this solid long-term European financial backing, just keeps showing tactical brilliance and strategic resilience, especially at choke points like the Siverskyi Donets.
They know how to defend that river, and they know how to fight this kind of attritional war.
The tension here is so clear. Russia is choosing this grinding positional warfare because maneuver warfare is just too costly for them now. And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. We know Russia's economy is under strain. They're having to raise taxes, sell off gold reserves to fund this endless war. So if the state is tapping into its strategic resources like that, how long can their strategy of prioritizing human lives, of prioritizing manpower over military equipment, actually sustain their maximalist war goals? You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex Sanaria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Home. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.